ya no tengo cosas en la universidad.
Well, my name is Sandra Calvo. I'm a visual artist. I work with issues about informality, illegal policies, and public space appropriation. And for the 12th Havana Biennale, I've been working about the problem of housing, of what housing means for Latin American people, especially for Cubans. So the central theme was the solar. The solar is the antique house from 17th century, perhaps, or 18th century, that was invaded or occupied by several families, and became to be. It was only one family that used to live in this big palace, and the servants used to live upstairs. And after the revolution, and with the time also before the revolution, it transformed and was occupied by several families. But of course the population started to grow, the needs started to grow as well. So we have all these architecture inside another architecture, but we have an unplanned architecture growing inside a big formal structure architecture. And I'm interested in this architecture without architects, in this architecture of resistance that is growing without engineers, without people that really know how to structure, and they are the inhabitants that becomes the architects of their own houses. Many times by the government and by the architects themselves or historians are not well seen because they are not aesthetics, or because they just can't understand how 100 families live in a place that used to be only for one family. And that's precisely what I'm trying to explain, or not as a theoretician, but more as a poetic license only. And what I did is, during the last 6 months, working in 6 of these places around Havana, filming the stories, the lives, and the structures of this informal architecture, and try to understand where the materials came from, how many people live in 4 meters per 3 meters houses. Sometimes it's 6 persons, sometimes it's 10 persons. What are the conditions for the water, electricity? Where does the wood came? Where does the brick came? And the stories are really strong and at the same time fascinating. You can find out all the abilities they managed to build this house and the effort. And this is what it goes about, a little bit like to understand that more than 70% of the people lives in this condition, and it's right
in Havana,
in Havana and in Latin America as well. The expressions are different. Like in Mexico City, is more an expanded thing. Through the mountains, they occupy the places. Here, no. Here you have an implosion, not an explosion. Like it's inside that it's getting like more and more and more and more people. Sometimes it's so invaded and so occupied the space that you cannot even enter, and you cannot anymore recognize where is the patio, where is the corridor. So they have to create other structures to get inside, and it's very labyrinthic. It's very medieval as well, but it's not. But it's a present time now. And I work normally with a co-participative and collaborative work. All the exhibition was in collaboration with the inhabitants of these places, as well with some group of historians and some group of architects. And all these groups work together, building the structures, building the video installations, and you have many voices in the room crossing what the inhabitants think about the space, what the architects think, what the historians, and they sometimes confront each other. And it is interesting for me. I just opened the door just to hear the voices, to see how they structure and manage, and to show like this potentiality of this architecture, only to not to erase or not to hide, but make visible what many times we want to make invisible, no? To visibilize this process. No?
How are you feeling today?
Better. So these are they use this for the water to wash themselves or to put some paint. So I thought it was a very good idea to project into the water here. So here you have a video. Going there. This is another installation. Each one represents one solar. They images inside, outside of their houses. The materials they use, the structure, where do they take the materials, who build it, what size is the house. Normally the house is 4 meters per 3 meters, and 6 people perhaps live in that small. Wow. So I try to, but with a lot of dignity, with a lot of careless and.
But these people they're illegal. They must be like the
Always these places are move between the legal and the illegal, and the government knows, but this is what was before, how is now. With some stories about it, and stories about this, one story about this, and the audio is all the testimonies of the people. No?
So it's multi.
Yeah. Look, you see, this is an old building that had a stair, but they didn't have space to put a house, so they decided to take away the stair and put inside the stair a house.
That's insane.
Yes.
So that's a whole house.
That's a whole house inside one stair.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very economical. And
it's very economical, but it's an architecture of resistance.
Yeah.
There is no other way.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Yes.
And so, how you said lots of Havana Vieja is occupied in this way. How long has this been?
This has been true since, especially since the victory of revolution. More and more people comes to live to the city. There are no places to live, so what they do is normally the buildings in Havana Vieja are very big and are very tall. We have very tall ceilings, so there is always a little place to have a house, and even when you think that there is no more a possibility to have a house, they manage the way around a corner, around something to build there a little room with a bathroom, with a kitchen, and it is tragic, but at the same time it is fantastic. So you cannot judge. It is just there to being shown, to being asked, especially by the people that this is a work for the people, made by the people that live there. But it's also to make the visitor that doesn't know about this a little bit of what is happening inside Havana Vieja. Havana Vieja is a big solar. It's a big ciudadela. It's a big squatter, but it's not out. You cannot see it. It's hiding inside, and there are a lot of stories going on there. A lot of families living there. The exhibition is divided in two parts. One is a reproduction on real scale made of cardboards of 14 structures that exist actually in several palace quarters, if you want to call in Havana Vieja. And then we have a documentation room with Vieja installations. All the materials that are in the Vieja installations are lent by the inhabitants, so we can see their doors, their windows, their materials, and they help us to build this. So we can think about it. How do they build? What are their abilities? Because how they become architects without having the knowledge, you know? What kind of techniques they use.
So it's a reproduction.
It's a reproduction.
And they built these.
They build with me,
They build with
and
you.
with a group of architects and with a group of historians. So you have one house here, another house there. This arc has 3 houses. One, two, we have to take out the door because people have to cross. And 3, and you have the stair to go to that little house.
So this is the house too?
Yes.
Where do they get their materials?
They get the materials from very, very strange places. It comes even from boats. Sometimes you take the stairs of a boat, you take them and you put them to make the stairs from the first floor to the second floor of your house, because there were no stairs, nobody came to put the stairs, so they managed to put those stairs in another places. So it's like we have many materials that don't come from a domestic use, but they use as a domestic use. Or sometimes they come from a hurricane that ruined the Malecon, and there were a lot of stones, so they took stone by stone to their house and built. So that you have many stories of recycling and recovering objects. We are also talking about this, no? So this is my work, and it's a collaborative work.